Then again, when you're paying rent in Philly, you might as well be paying for a mortgage.
You'll make it work. Like, you're never going to make less money. Like, I remember, like, keep reminding myself of that. And, like, your home's your, like, savings basically now.
It just didn't make a lot of sense to rent. And even at a high interest rate, it looks like it's going to pan out for you guys. And, the rates keep coming down. It's going to be more savings.
Do we wait? But again, we want it to be together. And I mean, life's short. So I was like, why are we going to waste time because of a rate?
Like, I hit send and like Sammy, boom, like 15 seconds. She's like, yes, please. All right, welcome back to another episode of MillenniUP, and I am solo once again. Jen has ditched me, and I have Sammi and Ray, who are past clients of ours, and wanted to bring them on. Say hi, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
So, Sammi and Ray came to me by referral. I think it was through Tom McKee.
Yes.
Do you have a dog there?
Yeah.
Your dog's there?
She owns the house now.
She won't leave our side.
That's totally fine. No, but shout out to Tom McKee, and we'll give him a quick shout out in the show notes. But I just wanted to bring you guys on, just talk to you guys just a little bit about like what like your experience was like. We've had other past clients on. You guys had a different kind of situation, which I was interested to talk about because your guys' employment had a ton to do with where we were looking. And I think we looked across a lot of districts. So, and I don't know, Ray, if you're comfortable talking about what you do for a living or what the rules are around that. But in terms of, you guys are a really good example of how employment and occupation. And Sammi, I think you work virtually, but then you don't. Yeah, partially.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, so what exactly was your professional setup and why was that important in your home search?
So we started originally because Ray, with being a cop in Philly, they're required to live there for 5 years, their first 5 years. So he wasn't there yet. And I wanted to be engaged and, get a move on our relationship. So I moved home back to my parents' house in Bucks County, and he was in MillenniUP at the time. So doing that commute with his schedule was pretty terrible. So we did that for a little less than a year, and I saved up and everything. And then I never saw myself moving back to Philly after being there and renting for, I guess, about 8 years. So we started looking in the suburbs with hopes that he was getting out of Philly police department and could move out. And then we were looking, that wasn't working out. And Ray was still paying rent in the city. Paying a mortgage by myself or him trying to do both wasn't really realistic anymore. So we kind of put a pause on for a little bit to try to figure that out. And then again, kind of wanted our relationship to move forward, and the whole living separate wasn't great. So then we opened up to looking in Philly again, but in different areas that I'd never lived in or really even went to. And I think that's when you brought us to MillenniUP, Roxborough area.
Yeah.
And kind of went from there.
Yeah. So where you guys technically is I guess technically Roxborough?
It's Roxborough, yeah.
Okay.
I think if you cross Henry, that's where
it's
MillenniUP
by
starts.
2 blocks is we are designated as Roxborough.
Yeah, because when I think of Roxborough, I think I think more of the upper end of MillenniUP, like that whole region.
Yeah, like upper Roxborough, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you guys were not living together. One was renting, one was living at home, and the proverbial basement. I know you weren't living in the basement, but that's kind of the shit talk that everyone gives anybody who dares live at home. So you moved home to save money?
Yes, for down payment.
Was that the only reason you moved?
Pretty much, yeah. And I didn't like the area I was in anymore. It got dangerous.
Okay.
It was a combo that and wanting to save, because we kind of came to the decision where neither of us really had we both lived with other people that brought most of the furniture. So we were does it really make sense for us to go and rent somewhere together, have to furnish that for then to get engaged and then want to buy a house next year and then have to furnish that. So it just didn't really financially make sense. So we kind of talked about it and we said we would buy together. as long as it was just my name because we weren't engaged yet.
It was partially because I said if I'm gonna, make things like official with somebody, I gotta live with you first.
You guys
So
are.
I guess I wasn't bad to live with.
yeah. If we're here, a year after, I think.
Yeah, how long has it been? No, everything you guys said is about right. I mean, you simplified. You guys weren't living together, both paying rent. You guys simplified, kind of regrouped, and then simplified again by consolidating households.
Mhm.
And then yeah. So Sammy, you're the only one. So you are the actual owner of that house, even though
Yeah, you remember that.
Handyman Ray. We were not going to get through one of these episodes without talking about Handyman Ray. We got a lot of stories about her. But yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't know if that was because it was just because that was a better loan, or if it was just that was easier.
Yeah, I think Tom recommended. He said if you can do it by yourself, you might as well just keep the debt under your name because I mean, obviously, this is our starter home and everything. So
Yeah.
going forward, then he could do like the next one. They're coming out with a lot. He was saying at the time too, they're coming out with a lot of like first responder loans and special programs like that. So he's like kind of works just to wait it out and see if anything comes out like that in the future when we buy our next home.
Yeah, and that's good, man. So you guys have put yourself in a good position. What is a piece of advice you would give to somebody who's Sammy and Ray like 2 years ago? You guys have a lot of moving parts. You've got a potential wedding on the way. What is a piece of advice you'd give somebody who is thinking about getting into like home buying or trying to simplify their lives like you did?
I would, from my point of view, I would say as much as we wanted to find a place and move in and kind of start that chapter, like I think there's only like 2 or 3 houses that we looked at like before this, and we love this house. But I think like the first one I went through by myself, she was like, "I love it." I was like, "It is a good location," but we were kind of like, "Let's like keep going," like because you never know what you're gonna find.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was one on the west end of MillenniUP that we liked. It had a nice yard, row home. But I think it was just like a little bit too much like work and asking price. We're like, all right, let's move on to the next one. And then we found this one. So it's just like I think just keep going. Like as much as like we were separated and like wanted to find something, like waiting and finding something that you actually like truly like and you actually can see yourself in. Because some people like I guess pull the trigger too early.
Yeah.
And they just want to, okay, let's go now. When like, you could go now, but then your actual dream home could have been the next listing.
Yeah.
So I think like after seeing that one and then a combination of like the houses that you showed us, like, even though we couldn't move into the county, you kind of showed us like Philly taxes compared to the county and like what we could get in certain areas and how like, pick some things that you like. You may not as always get what you really want, but over time you can build it into a home that you actually want based on price, location, and everything like that. So I think it kind of allowed us to take a step back and really look at like, all right, what do we want in the house that we can afford in this market? But then what can we also get that we could easily do ourselves and turn into what we're actually looking like for a full package?
Yeah, and I mean, I think a good way to sum that up is like keeping all your options open and then just being open to compromise. That especially for somebody who is in the beginning stages of home ownership, like that one day you will be moving somewhere else, and that this house solves a need that you have, which is to essentially vet to make sure you're not going to kill each other during marriage. But in the end, it's like, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And we have people who find it, they get impatient. They go in and they're like, I just want to get this over with.
The first house you showed us, I was like, should we build it? Remember that?
Yeah.
We weren't even supposed to see it. It was like it was your listing, I think, next to a house we were seeing that had that like roof coming down. Remember
The
that
first
one?
one it was on Elm in North Wales, and that
Yeah.
house, I remember like the next day I got on with my partner who lives in North Wales. She's like Mrs. North Wales, like she knows
Mhm.
everything. And I'm like, I was like, oh yeah, I showed this property in North Wales. She's like, oh, which one? And I said on Elm. She's like, oh my god, that shithole. It's like, and I was like, yeah. And she like wanted to like take a quick look at it, and I was like, yeah, like, but then yeah, we took you over to one of my listings, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a beautiful home.
Yeah.
But then then I think we migrated to Warrington, and then we were in Abington.
We were all, yeah.
And then I'm like, and he's like, oh, well, Ray might get a job in Limerick. And I'm like, okay, let's see what that does. But no, listen, but once we kind of honed in on Philly, or that really lower county, upper Philly region,
Mhm.
it didn't take long for us to find it. But believe it or not, like even though those houses we saw before weren't in the same area, me getting you into those homes, asking you questions about what you like, what you can compromise, what you must have, what you kind of want to have, that
Right.
all prepared you to write that agreement of sale on the house that you're
Definitely.
sitting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like I'm glad we saw them, even though it wasn't the area we were going to end up. And I mean, for the future too, we eventually want to go back towards there. So
yeah, and I talk to my clients all the time about this, and I was like, there is no more clarifying process than walking through homes.
yeah.
It's just
Absolutely.
you can't. There's no tech. There's nothing happening on the West Coast. You can't smell a house through the computer.
Mm-mm.
You can't do any of that stuff. So it really does, especially with first time home buyers. And I was just having a conversation with a couple on Saturday, and they are right where they're pretty much like the Warrington condo stage. They've seen like two houses. You guys rent, and I said to that, and they asked a really great question at the end. In fact, Jen and I made a podcast episode about it. Is how do you know when it's the right house, like emotionally, like financially, logistically? And they asked that question on our questionnaire, and it was, I thought it was an interesting way to kind of just innocently ask, like, how do we know we're not going to make a massive mistake?
Yeah.
And I said to them, I'm like, listen, you are going to know because you will have seen so many other things that you don't like, that what's in front of you, you're going to see and you're going to like. And I always tell them, I'm like, the real estate buying part of your brain has never been activated. First time home buyer, they've never had to go through this and all that. So I've done it where I've shown one house and they're like, yep, this is it. We're good. But usually those people have like been through open houses and they've been like walking, they've been searching for a year, that type of thing. But then there are people, it takes longer. It takes, there's like 10, 15, 20 houses before we start writing agreements. And that's totally fine. So what was the biggest like challenge of like the home buying process? Forget about the search. Like what was the thing like you were most nervous about? Was it the search? Was it the lending? Was it the money that you had to give at settlement? Was it, all the above?
A combination. I think for me, it was that I don't know how to do home stuff, home improvement stuff.
Okay.
So like we would, obviously with our price point and where we were at, we knew we're not getting a brand new house. So we had to like understand that. But like, I was kind of scared about that because I'm like, okay, yeah, you can do it, but like, you're not going to be able to do everything by yourself. Like, what am I going to do? Like, kind of like I was scared about that. I mean, I remember at inspection, I was about to cry because I didn't understand what anything meant that he was saying.
Over the smallest things.
He's like, you have to change your outlet cover. And I thought my TV was going to blow up. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing. So I think that, and yeah, it's a huge amount of money you're putting out. Like your savings is gone. So I think being comfortable with that was really hard. Like just even up until the last second of it, it was stressful doing that. And I remember you telling me at one point too, like you'll make it work. Like you're never going to make less money. Like I remember like keep reminding myself of that. And like your home's your like savings basically now. And I mean, that was what I was going to say about my biggest like takeaway too is like, sacrificing some, like, yeah, maybe I can't go shopping as much as I used to want to or something, but I think like say
Still
sacrificing
goes to Marshalls
like
every other day.
Still alive and kicking, eh, Ray?
like sacrificing certain things like to go after that like goal that you have like was so worth it
Yeah.
in the end. And again, you make it work. Like you're gonna make more money. You have good jobs. Like I think keeping that in mind when going through that stressful process like really helped me out.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective, and I definitely believe in that. In terms of the arc of building wealth. Yeah, if your insurance and your taxes go up a little bit, but like what you're doing when you buy a house is you're kind of like basically freezing a home payment in time. If you were someone else owned that house you were sitting in and you rented it, they're just going to keep raising it, and that's that. You can't build wealth doing that. And listen, you can go and you can like invest in crypto or put it in the S&P 500, and yes, maybe technically you could make more money, but a mortgage is essentially a forced savings plan. Like all that money that goes into your principal, portion of your payment, that comes back to you at settlement. So I just got off the phone tonight with somebody who bought a house in 2020. Their house is appreciated. They're going to just take all that equity when they're ready to move, and they're going to just take it and move it to the next house. Now, meanwhile, they make a lot more money. He just got raised this week, so it's kind of, you just have to trust that as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, which is showing up for work and doing the right thing and making sure that you keep that job, you should be making more money, and then that mortgage payment's going to pale in comparison over time. And you guys are only a year in, and you already feel that, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
For down the road. Ray, what was your were you nervous about anything, or were you just along for the ride like a typical guy?
Sometimes I feel like that. No, but I think my standpoint was like finances. Like I think before I got, the job in law enforcement now, like it was kind of like, I mean, you're early mid 20s, like you're trying to figure out what you want to do. So you're not making like a full salary. So it's like you're kind of in that like pinching pennies phase where it's like, all right, where do I have to move this here? Where to move that there? And I always told her, I was like, look, I was like, if we're going to go somewhere, like, I understand like the down payment we're going to have to put down, but I don't want to be like, oh, like, I only have $10. Like I got to wait until I get paid and, on Thursday to make the mortgage. Cause I think it just adds stress, it adds stress to you, your relationship. But like, then again, when you're paying rent in Philly, you might as well be paying for a mortgage. So it really wasn't that bad. But I mean, I've always been like kind of like weary about finances. But like you said, we both had kind of, made increases in salary since we've been here in a year. So like we've never had a problem with anything like that. We've even put out more money to, get new things around the house, so.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What have you guys done to the house since you moved in? Let's talk about the fun stuff.
We painted the whole downstairs, and he did the basement ourselves, combined with our family.
That was interesting.
Yeah, at one point my sister's saying she's painting her eyes, so we weren't really sure what was going on. So don't look at our ceilings if you come in. But
before we moved, before we had like the Eagles like season opener last year, I redid the whole basement. So all new flooring, framing, painting. Sammy put in like a bar. I don't know if you remember like the barn doors that open up down there.
Yeah.
So she kind of built in a bar. Still working on the bathroom, but I mean it's functional. It's fine. So redid the basement. Yeah, we just got a brand new deck in April.
Yeah.
So
I was just talking about that deck today.
Oh,
we love it.
I saw Jeff.
Yeah, and then what else?
You guys had asbestos tiles in your basement, right?
Oh yeah, you skipped over that.
I didn't really want to go into that, but that was on me. I ripped up the carpeting. I was like, oh, there's only tiles on half of this floor. So then I just took a shovel and then your uncle came over.
Yeah, we
And
ripped
he's
up
like-
the whole thing. My uncle walks through. He's like, you know, that could be asbestos. And we're like, what's that? I've never seen that. I have no idea. And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you want me to go get it tested. And he just looked up. He like touched it. He's like, oh, 100%. Because he's worked in like old homes and everything his whole life. So he knew right away. And he's like,
so we're kind of was like that.
I called you, I think.
I know you did.
It was only a weekend. I'm like, I don't want this happen.
Dude, it was like 10 o'clock at night. I'm texting Jeff Fisher, the inspector, like, like, you know, is it hazardous? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and of course, Jeff's like sending me like all these links and code. Like,
I'm convincing myself I'm sick the next day. I'm calling urgent care.
Yeah.
But that was on me. I ripped up the carpet. I ripped up like there was like almost like a plywood like that you put underneath the carpeting and everything like that. So I ripped that up, and I was like,
just kept going.
Yeah, I just kept digging.
But
no,
it was a low exposure. They said like it was such a small area. Too.
Yeah,
it was not a big deal, but getting rid of it was.
Yeah, so I literally just, instead of having to pay thousands of dollars, I just Googled everything, like the glue mixture you have to put over the floor, and then I put.
We looked like we were like buying stuff at Lowe's for like cover up like a murder scene. He had like a hazmat suit, like
acid wash the basement floor.
Respirator. I put down a whole layer of concrete over that.
Yeah, so that was fun.
We became friends with the people at Lowe's very quick.
Can we talk about the garage door too?
Oh, forgot about that.
I forgot we got a new garage door too.
Because you were stuck in the
I have special notes. I have stock questions, so I do have special Ray notes.
I forgot about you.
So what happened with the garage door?
So it was Jeff, right? He was like, at some point you're gonna have to replace the garage door. He's like, you should be good, like. But it was
it would just like come off the track a little bit, but he could like push it back on, like so it was fine.
Yeah, but like we've been going in and out, like putting like old storage in there, taking stuff out. So it just like kind of like over time, just like started like coming off the frame. I was like, well, this isn't good. So like I close it to like get a better look inside, and the whole frame just collapses.
Half of it like just collapses. So he's stuck in there. I'm on the outside. He's cursing and everything. I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Can you roll out?
Luckily you were there.
Yeah, I know.
She laughed. I mean,
I didn't know what we ended up doing. We ended up like holding it up so you could roll out.
I bought a tarp and I just literally nailed the tarp.
No, but how'd you get out? I think we lifted up and you rolled out.
Barrel rolled underneath the garage door.
Ray, I have a confession to make. If I was there, I would be laughing with Sammy outside.
I mean, you just have to sometimes. You get so frustrated too, so I just have to laugh.
No, that's fine. So, what's your guys' plan? Any big renovations planned for the rest of the house? Or are you guys gonna kind of?
We're getting to actually paint it tomorrow.
Yeah, the whole
upstairs, the bedrooms. Okay. I went to go do it myself a couple weekends ago. I went to move the furniture. I looked at the walls and I was like, I just can't.
She took 4 pictures off the wall, moved her desk and like stuff out of her office. She's like, who do you know that paints? Like,
yeah, I'm just not. No. I'm not. I'm busy with work now. It's just I don't have the time. And so we ended up hiring painters for that. And then they're actually it's a contracting like construction company. So they're giving us a quote for the floors too, like because it's the original hardwood.
Yeah, the wood floors. Yeah.
I mean, we were thinking carpet over top of them, but we're not really sure. So we're gonna see what they say. But that's probably our biggest project we have.
But we won't do that until way after the wedding.
Yeah, we'll probably hold off.
We need some time to relax after that.
That's right. And so, what is your guys' like long-term plan? Like, how long are you guys going to be there?
I said 1 kid.
1 kid.
Yeah. Once the second one's a thought, then we're yeah.
It's funny, the people I talked to tonight, that's exactly what they live in a 2-bedroom house and they have a kid and they want to expand and they're like, okay, so like upsizing is a perfectly good thing. Real quick, how does the house that you live in compare to what you originally thought you wanted to buy?
Size-wise, was what I was thinking. Like I always thought townhome, 3-bedroom, something in that. Wanted a basement. I knew that was like a definite for us that we wanted.
Yep.
Philly, the location is much different than I never thought I would buy in Philly.
Back
But
in
I mean,
Philly.
this neighborhood we're in, I don't feel like I'm in like Fishtown how I
And I
was and
always,
scared, and
Yeah.
it's very family oriented. Like we're across the street from a golf course, so
Yeah.
like it's so different than being in Philly, and the location's so remote for us, like for our family's work and everything. So I would say the location was the biggest difference, but house size wise was around what I was thinking.
Okay.
yeah, I think for me, I mean, of course, working for the department is more about location. Where do I feel comfortable when I leave the house that she's going to be okay walking the dog or going out? And then, like she said, like my family's in King of Prussia, hers is in like Warminster, Warrington. So, like, we're kind of like in that like 25-30 minute area, like north and east to my parents. Plus, if there's times where like, we want to have a date night, we can just go right down the main street in Manioc. We don't have to go all the way in the center city or anything like that. So I think we're kind of like in a really good area, especially like, and then the size, like I think between just us two and the dog is perfect right now.
Yeah, and it's enough that we can have our families. Like that was always my big thing too. Like we both come from big families and stuff. Like I was like, I don't want it to be that I can't sit my family down for dinner, or like we can't all sit on the couch for a game. Like I didn't want to be in that feel that like I couldn't have people over and stuff, because like we love to do that. So it's like the perfect size for us to do that. So
Yeah, I would agree. And I remember us looking for houses, and your mom was with us, and I got that energy that you guys all like to get together and watch games. And
I had my couch picked out before we even picked out a house. So
that's why
it was all about where the couch was going to
fit.
Yeah, I've had that where there's like literally they come clients come every single showing with a tape measure, and they, one person grabs one end of the thing, and they go out and of course they have some massive sectional that, they got into. So last thing I want to talk to you guys about, because when we bought, interest rates were quite high.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're, at the time of this recording, they are just at or above 6.
Which is amazing to hear, because we need that refinance.
And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that, because out of all the people that we've had on so far, you guys have actually, you have not set the high score on your interest rate. But I wanted to talk a little bit about that psychology, because rates were pretty high. Did you guys think about like buying with the idea like of refinancing, or was it like, hey, the payment's manageable as it is? Like, talk to me about that. And Sammy, I know this is more of your department, because I know you were having lots of communications with our lender.
Yeah. So that was another thing I was going to say was one of our biggest challenges was you're also like hearing everyone say like, this is the worst time to buy a house. Like the rates are so high, all this stuff. And like, I mean, I'm comparing myself to all my friends and stuff that bought houses. Their rates are like 3% and everything. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm going to be paying a mortgage double yours, and you have a bigger house than me. Like, just like looking at that was like kind of discouraging. And then I was like, do we wait? But again, we want it to be together. And I mean, life's short. So I was like, why are we going to waste time because of a rate?
Love is love, guys.
Love is love, yeah, right. So,
but yeah, I mean, was that something you really like took a lot of thought about? Is like,
yeah, and I think I was harassing Mike at points to rerun the things and stuff, because like I would just Google, and rates were fluctuating up and down, and if anything, just rising at that time. I mean, when we first started looking, we were still in the 6s, and we ended up 7.5. So yeah, we're up there. But I mean, at the end, we were like, yeah, we can make this work, but we definitely had to refinance. Like, we've been counting down until we can refinance. Like, honestly, I mean, yeah, it's fine. Like, we're living, like, we're comfortable, but like, we could save a lot more, like, which would be nice, like, with the refinance. So that's what I think we talked about. Basically, we were just like, we're going to try to make more money. I was up for a promotion soon, and we're like, if anything, the rates got to come down at some point. So,
and they did.
Yeah.
And they're looking to, that as we go through 2024, they're looking to come down even more. And I told you a few weeks ago, and it was funny because when I started, I sent out to like 7 or 8 clients, like on it was like a Thursday night. I'm like, hey, talk to Thompson, thinking the rates are starting to come down. We should keep an eye on it. And like I hit send, and like Sammy, boom, like Like in 15 seconds, she's like, "Yes, please." Like,
I told refinance on my phone, and I never responded so quick.
yeah. So it was funny. I told Thompson about that. I was like, I think Sammy's definitely looking to refinance.
I check on the app. They have like the app where you can go and like refinance my home and see what you would save. I check it all the time.
Yeah.
Daily,
Any chance
daily.
it dropped?
Yeah. So no, but that's good. And now what we're doing is we are monitoring that for people who bought in like, a year to 18 months ago. They really peaked like 11 months ago. They really peaked in like October. And my other clients in Collegeville, I think they're locked in at 7.8, 7.5, 7, maybe 7.9. It was floating at 8, and then they waited, and then they floated just down, and then they locked.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing to take away from that is that like life kind of marches on, and if you can afford it, or even if it's a little bit of a stretch, and there's prevailing sentiment that says that, rates are going to do this or that, there is a time to just bite the bullet and go for it, because you guys are building wealth. Even at a higher interest rate, you guys are still building wealth into it, into an asset.
Yeah.
Versus rent, like you were saying, Ray, renting a place. And listen, there's times when renting makes like a ton of sense.
Right.
Like post-divorce, sure. If you got to sell the house. Everyone gets like a year breather, and then we go out and find them houses. Or someone who's moving into the area new has no idea where they want to live, like that type of thing. But you guys were both from this area. You knew that you wanted to live together. It just didn't make a lot of sense to rent. And even at a high interest rate, it looks like it's going to pan out for you guys. And, the rates keep coming down. Just going to be more savings. And that just turns around to a nicer wedding cake, I guess, right?
Yeah. Nicer next house.
Yeah.
Nicer next house.
Yeah, I mean, and we also talked about too, because with the location we're in, like for this being our first house, I mean, it'd be ideal to keep the house and for a rental property and stuff like that. But like that was like something that I was worried about, because I'm like, our mortgage is so high, you're not really making that money in rent around. Like, I mean, you can rent for pretty high in Philly, but like that's to pay for like, upkeep and everything.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really be making much at that point off of it. So we always talk about it. We're like, if we can get down low enough that our mortgage is that low that we could rent out and make money, like, I mean, that'd be ideal. Then we have another property, which would be great. But I mean, right now at this point, we'd have to sell it to buy another house. But
yeah, and listen, that's not the end of the world too. I mean, there's a lot of people who like the idea of renting their first house. If you can make it work, usually you need a lot of income to overcome, so you can carry two mortgages. But but it is also, like being a landlord isn't all it's cracked up to be. I'm definitely a proponent of building wealth through real estate if you can hold on to the asset. But then I have other clients who are like, you know what, I just like the house served its purpose. And I just want to take all the money and go, and just take it all and go, and then just leave this like behind. And that's, I think, a totally fair place to be. So I think that's I think that's a good way to leave it. Any parting words, any pieces of advice, anything that you would like to tell anyone who's maybe listening? Right.
Trust Seth and don't turn away.
Don't trust old ass garage door frames.
When Jeff says that the garage needs to be fixed fairly soon, take his word for it.
That's right. So, okay, guys. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, and we will keep an eye on the market and see where those interest rates head. And
I'll be checking.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be. I'll see you guys.
See ya.
See ya.